Lesson 5.3, Day 2. Our learning target today is I can solve inequalities involving multiple steps. Our essential question says, how do you solve a multi-step inequality? So with the essential question, we're focusing on what step you need to do and in what order, how you figure that out when you look at an inequality. So the first problem says solve and graph 7x minus 4 is greater than 3x minus 16. The first thing I do, circle the variables and draw the line to separate my inequality. When there's variable on each side of the inequality, the first thing that I do is move them over to the same side. So to do that, what I'm going to do is eliminate the smaller variable. So I have 7x and 3x. The smaller variable is 3x. Because it's a positive 3x, subtracting it is what would cancel it out. 3x minus 3x is 0, so it would be gone. Then on the left-hand side, 7x minus 3x leaves me with 4x. And then I bring down the minus 4 is greater than negative 16. This negative sign is on the 16, not on the 3x. Now I have just one variable left, and we need to work to isolate it. On the same side with my variable, I have a minus 4, so I will add 4 to cancel that out, which leaves me 4x is greater than negative 12. Negative 16 plus 4 is negative 12. And then for my final step, 4x means 4 times x, so the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So I divide both sides by 4, so that leaves x is greater than negative 3 for my inequality. On the number line, I'll start with negative 3. Greater than is an open circle, and numbers are greater to the right. So I draw my array with an open circle to the right, and then two numbers to the right of negative 3 would be moving closer to 0. So in the positive direction, negative 2 and negative 1. Example number 2, very similar to the first one. Circle my variables, draw the line to split my inequality. The smaller variable this time, when I have a positive 5x and then a negative 2x, the smaller one is negative 2x. To cancel that out, I would need to add 2x. Negative 2x plus 2x is 0. Adding 5x plus 2x gives me 7x minus 3 is less than positive 4. Working on the side where the variable is, next I should add 3 to cancel out the negative 3. So that leaves 7x is less than 7. And then in front of the x I have a 7 times x. So the inverse of multiplying is dividing. So if I divide by 7, I get x is less than 1. So on my number line, I have 1, positive 1, less than is an open circle to the left, and to the left of 1 would be 0 and negative 1. All right, now we're moving on. So instead of just having variables on each side, another thing that we've worked with in the past with equations was using the distributive property. So when you see a number next to parentheses, that number is being multiplied times everything inside the parentheses. That's the distributive property. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And then negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So when you see parentheses in your equation, that should be your first step. Distribute and take care of those parentheses first. Now I have variables on each side like we did in the previous two problems. So the smaller variable is negative 2x. So So I add 2x on both sides to cancel it out. 8 is greater than 7x minus 13 then. Then I can add 13 on both sides. Remember, you're working on the side where the variable is. So on this problem, the variable's on the right-hand side. So that's why I'm eliminating my 13 next. You would not want to eliminate the 8 on the left because you need to keep something on each side to keep it balanced. So my last step this time, I should be dividing by 7, dividing by 7. So then I have 3 on the left-hand side. I have 3 is greater than x. Before I draw my graph, though, I'm going to reverse that. So instead of 3 is greater than x, I'm going to say x is less than 3. Remember, you want your variable on the left-hand side before you draw your graph on your number line. You want the variable on the left because then your open closed circle, your ray, is pointing in the direction that it's graphed on your number line. So x is less than 3 is an open circle to the left where the numbers are less. So this matches now that I've flipped it. And left of 3 would be 2 and 1. Another problem involving the distributive property. 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times 6 is 12. Then on the right-hand side, be careful with your signs. I'm going to put a 1 in front of the plain x. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. And negative 3 times negative 1x is positive 3x. So now we have a variable on each side. The smaller one is 2x. So I can subtract 2x on both sides. So 12 is greater than negative 24 plus 1x. And then working on the side where the x is, my next step should be adding 24. I'm trying to get x by itself regardless of what side it's on. So now 36 is greater than 1x. Remember, 1x is the same as just x. So I don't really have to write the 1 in front of it. Now I can reverse my inequality so that x is on the left-hand side and x is less than 36. So 36, open circle to the left where the numbers are smaller. And 2 solutions would be 35 and 34. One more problem where we are distributing. This one's a little different because there's a coefficient in front of the x. Remember, when you're multiplying, they don't have to be like terms. So 7 times x is 7x, and then 7 times 1 is 7. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. Negative 2 times positive 2x is negative 4x. So my smaller variable is the one that's negative, so I'm going to add 4x to cancel it out. 7x plus 4x is 11x, minus 7 is less than or equal to negative 18. So when you're canceling out your variable on each side, you might be adding or subtracting. It just depends on that variable, if it's a positive or negative. When it's a negative like this one, you have to add to cancel it out. Now we have only one variable, 11x. On that side, after the 11x is a minus 7, so I add 7. That's the inverse of subtracting 7. So 11x is less than or equal to negative 11. Negative 18 plus 7 is negative 11. And then my last step is to divide both sides by 11. So then x is less than or equal to negative 1. Negative 11 divided by positive 11 is negative 1. So this should be a closed circle this time. Less than or equal to goes to the left. And to the left of negative 1 would be negative 2 and negative 3. Our last example is a word problem. With this word problem, it says 2, so that's the number 2, more than, that means plus, half, of means to multiply in math, a number, of a number. Remember, when it says a number, that's where you pick your variable. So I'm going to say x equals the number. So I'm defining my variable here. X equals the number. So 2 more than, 2 plus, half of a number, 1/2 x, is greater than, this is my inequality symbol, is greater than 27. So be careful. Make sure that you can figure out your math operations and your inequality symbols. So right here, more than is adding, of is multiplying, and then is greater than is the symbol, the greater than symbol. Now we're ready to solve. Remember, when you're multiplying, like for the word of, when it's a number and a letter, you can just put them next to each other. You don't have to put a dot here in between them. Now let's solve. So circle the variable. 2. I would need to subtract the 2 to cancel out the 2 because it's a positive 2. Then I bring down my 1/2 x, and 27 minus 2 is 25. Remember, when you have a fraction times your variable, you need to multiply by the reciprocal to cancel it out. So flip over that fraction and multiply both sides like this. The 2's will cancel, so will the 1's. So all that's left on the left-hand side is x, and on the right-hand side, put a 1 under that 25 and multiply straight across. 25 times 2 is 50, 1 times 1 is 1, and 50 divided by 1 is 50. So x is greater than 50 is my final answer.